Look who showed up today. We're so excited. It's been over a year.
I know. It's sad,
since
isn't
you've been
it?
here. I know.
I'm glad to be back, though.
Yes, we're glad to have you. Finally something
Thank
worked
you.
out, and she's got a really cool technique, and I'm not going to give it away because, what do I know? She's the polymer clay, I can't say it. She is the polymer clay pro.
I don't know about pro, but I certainly do have some fun with it, that's for sure.
You're a pro.
Okay, well,
If
thank
you
you.
get paid for tutorials, you're a pro.
Oh.
Okay, and she's got a lot of great tutorials, guys, and we're going to tell you about that later. Now, I'm going to shut up because she's the polymer clay lady, and she's going to show you a beautiful winter project that you're just going to can't wait to get out your clay and do. And it does use some things from BisuBoutiques.com where we have the good stuff, right? Yes, we do. So anyway, take it away, Katie.
All right, thanks. Why don't you guys come on over behind the table and we'll get started. Okay guys, so this is the project that we are making today. We are making a pine cone with some wintry rose leaves, and you can add your own little berry charms to it if you like. Today I'm going to teach you how to make the pine cone and how to make your leaves. And if you would like a different version, you can always add snow to your pine cone and to your leaves after it is baked, okay? So you can do this as a very wintry thing, or you can do this as just a slight winter, maybe more fall design. But pine cones are a lot of fun, and they're very, very easy. So here's some of the supplies that you'll need. You will need a variety of earth-toned perfect pearls. You don't have to use these ones. These are a few of my favorites. Heirloom Gold, Cappuccino, and Perfect Bronze.
Go Cappuccino.
Yes, Cappuccino is one of my favorites.
Yummy.
You will also need some either holly leaf or rose leaf cutters, and these are the cutters that are also embossing cutters, so they'll put the veins right into the clay for you. I have used these rose leaves, but you can use holly leaf cutters as well. It doesn't matter. You will also need a wet cosmetic sponge, and you get these in the cosmetic department at any Rite Aid or Walgreens or CVS, whatever you have. This one you can tell has been loved over the years, but you'll need to get this nice and wet so it'll be a little bit bigger than its size. You'll need this later. You will also need a variety of teardrop cutters. These are Kemper cutters, and these sizes, that I have here is 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch. We will not actually be using the 3/4 inch. We will be using the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch, but whatever size cutter you have will work. Just make sure they're teardrop. It'll make your job a little easier in the end. You'll also need to prepare some polymer clay. This is a custom brown color, if you can see it. I used raw sienna and added some bronze to it to give it a shimmer. This is just straight plain raw sienna. This is just a blend where I have put gold, antique gold, and this blend of the raw sienna and the bronze together. And it's not a Skinner blend, but I just wanted a shift in color. I could keep blending this until there was no streaks remaining, but I want the streaks to add definition. And I also made a custom burgundy color, and I did this by using equal portions of pomegranate, which is the red, and alizarin crimson polymer clay. Now I should say that all the clays that we're using today are Primo polymer clay, but whatever polymer clay you have will work. The other thing that you will need is to make a blend of green. I chose several different colors, just what I had in my scrap pile for greens, and blended them together. You'll notice it is not completely marbled. There's nice definition and variation here, and I want that. You can blend this until it is all one color, but when I make leaves, I don't necessarily like to do so. The green, as well as whatever color you are going to use for your actual pine cone, will need to be rolled on the second largest setting of your pasta machine. You will also need a toothpick for your beads. And you will need to make for yourself some hooks, or you can use eye pins to embed into your pine cone at the end. And you will also need some chalks. You can either use chalk pastels. This is a chalk palette from Ink-A-Dink-A-Doo. If you've watched any of my videos or been to my website, catersacres.com, you'll know this is my favorite set, and I have had this for over 8 years, so it has held up quite nicely. You will also need a big fluffy brush. This is actually the Perfect Pearls brush. You will need this to use with your chalks. And you will also need a knitting needle and some kind of a soft bristled brush for your mica powder. So now that I've told you everything that you're gonna need, let's get started with our project. So to make our pine cone, we'll start there. I'm going to use the plain raw sienna clay, and I'm just gonna tear this in half. You'll need approximately 1/2 ounce, but we're not measuring here, we're more concerned with size. I'm going to take my sheet and fold it in half and squeeze the edge to get that air out. Fold it in half again, squeeze the edge, keeping the air out. This will just help me to make a nice ball that doesn't have any air trapped inside. I'm going to take this sheet and I'm going to roll it in my hands until it is a nice, almost ball shape. This does not have to be perfect. If you can't make a ball and you make a bicone, it doesn't matter, truly, because you're not going to end up with a round shape anyway. The only thing you need to make sure is that your ball has absolutely no seams. And see, I made a bicone. That's okay. It doesn't matter for this project. Once you have your ball shape, you're going to take your hands, place them like a wedge, and roll back and forth to create a teardrop shape. This is the easiest way to create one. Now, whatever shape your teardrop is, this is how big your center pendant would be. So if you look at this teardrop in relation to our winter pine cone, you'll see they're about the same size. So make your teardrop as big as you want your pine cone to be. If you want your pine cone smaller, use less clay. If you want your pine cone bigger, use more clay, okay? It's not difficult. All right, so once we have our teardrop, we're gonna set it fat side up, fat side down, pointy side up. You're gonna take your blade and you're gonna slice right down the middle. Okay, this is an easy way. You are going to get 2 pendants out of this. See? Easy peasy. That's the base for your entire pine cone. Now, before we go any further, what I am going to do is I'm going to shape my pine cone the way I want it. I want my pine cone to kind of have a flat back, so I'm going to press this, and I want the point to be pointier. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll leave one a little rounded so that we have 2 pine cones that are of different shape. And let's set them aside for right now. The next thing that you will need is your brown, your dark brown clays, or your Skinner blended clays, okay? This is not a hard process, but if you look at a pine cone, what you will see is that the pine cone, I'm going to call them leaves. I don't know what they're called, guys. I'm not a botanist or anything here. But the pointy part of the pine cone goes from... Well, I don't know what it is. It goes from smaller to larger. You can do that. This pine cone has done that. This one has not. The older the pine cone or the bigger the pine cone, the more definition generally you will see. So it is your choice whether or not you want to differentiate the size, okay? All right, so back to our clay. What you're going to do, again, this clay is rolled to the 2nd largest setting on your pasta machine, and you don't need a lot. This is probably about 1/2 ounce here, and this is a little shy of 1/2 ounce. What you're going to do is you are going to take your cutters. This is a 1/4 inch teardrop cutter, and I am going to start cutting with the light color, this golden color, because I want my pine cone to progress the way this does. If you really take a good look at this, you'll notice how everything down here has a gold cast, and then yet at the top it's missing that gold cast. And I achieved that simply by using a blend, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, find the pointy side of your teardrop cutter, and let's cut out several shapes. Now, if you have some water, because that did not come out, go ahead and give it a little spritz. That'll help your cutter not to stick. And go ahead and just cut out several of those shapes, okay? Now, because I don't like wasting clay, I'm actually going to take the pointy side of the cutter here and place it in between each cut. Now this will be enough for 2 full pine cones. I love winter, you guys. It's supposed to snow here this weekend. I'm so excited. We're supposed to at my house. Now I don't live down here where Miss Brenda does,
You
but
have a lot of snow.
we do. I live up in the snow belt, so we're supposed to get almost a foot tonight. I'm a little excited about this. I know, right?
What?
I know.
We're supposed to have an inch like sometime this weekend.
Yeah, we're not supposed to get that little. I'm very excited about this.
One
If you
by
guys don't
one.
know me very well, I absolutely love snow. I wait all year for winter. I could never live in Florida.
I am happy for you.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start making our pine cone. I'm just going to remove this, take out any pieces that are left behind. Now, for me, when I start my pine cone, it is easiest for me to work from the bottom of the pine cone up to the top. Pine cones have staggered, what are we calling those? Petally things, I guess. Let's refer to them as petally things. In order to make them, you're going to take these nice little teardrops that you cut. You're going to put your fingers like this around the side of them and your fingers on top and back, and you're going to squeeze all in one motion. You're going to squeeze the sides, squeeze the top and bottom. Ready? Squeeze. When you squeeze like that, look what happens to your shape. It's going to get a little bit more pointy. But because you already started out with the basic shape, this is really easy to do. Now I'm going to press the whole thing down onto my finger. It's going to give it a little bit of a curve, and then pinch that front a little more. I'm going to take that and I'm going to place the center one first, and I'm going to place it all the way down at the edge. Now if I just set it on here, it is not going to stick, okay? So you really have to give it a great big push, and there you go. It's now on there. Now because I want variety and I don't want all my leaves to be the same, let's go ahead and let's cut out a few of the brown clay pieces. Sometimes when you're working or sculpting with clay, you realize that a lot of what you're doing is repetitive actions, and that lets your brain wander, lets you have fun, lets you think about all the things you have to do, about the dinner you're going to make for your hubby, what you're going to give to your loved ones this holiday season, or not give to them if they're getting coal. Okay. If they've been bad. Okay, so we're going to do the same action again. We're going to pinch from the front and pinch the top and bottom all at the same time. Okay, look at that. It's beautiful. Now, because we have to go along the sides, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife because it's easier for me. I'm going to cut this guy in half. This will kind of help us to easily form our side shapes. And I'm going to take this half and I'm going to put the flush side down at the bottom, okay, so that it looks like it was cut, like the pine cone was literally cut in half. Take the other side and we're going to put it right at the same level as this one. And I'm going to give it a good push with my pinky fingers, okay? So I don't know if you can see that or how well you can see that. It doesn't have to look nice. Guys, we're going to cover this. So don't freak out if it doesn't look perfect. We're not going for perfection. So keep doing that. Squeeze from the front, squeeze from the back. Make these tiny little shapes that look like, you know, pinecone petals, because apparently that's what we've decided to call them. Pinecone petals. And we're just going to vary them. And you want to stagger them. So if you look, my pinecone petals, or whatever they are called, they're now, each point is now in the gaps of the previous row. You want to build on that so that you are staggering your leaf petally things, okay, so that it looks like the pine cone is unfolding, okay. Now you could smash all these down the way a pine cone is when they're young. They're often smashed down more, but I kind of like the look of the aged pine cone. So we're just going to keep repeating, squeezing and making smaller. Okay, now please notice once again I am putting every point in the gap of the one previous. And we're just going to vary them. We're going to do some brown, we're going to do some gold, some brown, some gold, some brown, some gold. Once you get past that first row, until you get to the top, you really should not need to cut any more petally things. I don't know what those are. That's bothering me. I should have looked that up.
Bothering me too.
Somebody Google that. See what those pine cone leafy things are called. All right, so we're just continuing the squeezing and pressing process. And again, guys, this is some of the monotonous work of building. And that's okay. We all need to be builders, right? And you might need to give it several squeezes. Now here I'm going to have to use a judgment call. If I place this here, it's almost too big. So once again, I'm going to take this one that's already squeezed nicely for me, and we're going to cut it off. And remember, your flat side is going to go flush to the opposite side. And if it's a little small, that's okay. I would rather have it a little small than a little big. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the center either. Okay? So look at that. Okay, so that's how our pine cone is starting. We keep building. Keep our squeezing motion and momentum. You can squeeze at the same time. You can kind of do what I'm doing. First the sides, then the top, then the sides, then the top. As long as you are continuously building, you should be okay. Just make sure that each center of the pinecone petally thing that somebody's Googling for us, what that's called. We're going to get some bad comments about people who, that girl doesn't even know the name of the parts she's trying to sculpt.
Oh, for crying out loud. Come on.
Guys, just forgive me, okay? I'm just saying.
I'm going to Google it in a minute. I'm sending pictures to Facebook.
Oh, okay. All right, now before we start on another place, we want to make sure, I almost started up there again, but that would have been bad. Because we have to finish each row. And I am just going back and forth, whether I'm using gold or whether I'm using brown. And I'm being really willy-nilly about it. I don't want to be picky because I want it to, now that I look at it, there's a whole row of brown. Certainly not the way God intended, but that's okay. We're gonna fix it up here in a little bit. Okay. Alright, so just repetitive motion.
You have to have someone in the background chortling a little.
Yeah, razzing you.
A heckler.
That's right.
I knew the word for that.
Now if we could only get these pine cone petally things looked up, we'd be great.
I'm going to do that. I'm on the way. I'm posting pictures.
So again, make sure as you go up, you're going to need more and more petally things. You better go look that up, Brenda. And we're not aiming for perfection, guys, because if you've ever actually taken a walk in the woods, no pine cone is ever perfect. You know, nothing truly is symmetrical. God doesn't make things symmetrical. We as people like to make things symmetrical because it pleases our eye to do so, but that's not necessarily the way that nature was created. Just like me, I'm an imperfect being, but it's all good.
Asymmetrical is more beautiful.
Asymmetrical is more beautiful. And the asymmetrical also tends to look more natural because that's the way it was made. Okay, so we're getting to the end. Once we get to the end, you can either continue going with the same size, which I'm going to finish this with the same size. It'll make like a young looking pine cone, or you can do cut out some larger petals and make some larger ones. But let's finish this little guy with his little young petals so that we have two very different versions of our pine cone, because, you know, that'll be fun. Why not? Make sure when you are adding your pine cone petally things, make sure you are...
I'm on Google looking at Wikipedia.
Okay. Make sure that you give them a very, very good press, especially toward the top where the pendant will be hanging, because it will have movement. You do not want it to break. Sorry if you just saw the tippy top of my head. You do not want it to break while someone is wearing it. That would just be sad. Okay, now to finish it off, I am going to make bigger petals. And I'm going to use just the straight brown, not the gold, because I want the gold to remain at the bottom, but that's my choice. You can do it however you would like to do it. And again, this is the 1/2 inch teardrop. But we're repeating that same process, squeezing the sides, squeezing the back. It'll also kind of help get rid of some of those cut lines for you. Again, we want to make sure that our points go in the gaps. Oops.
I think it's scales.
Scales?
I don't know, that doesn't sound right. But I can tell you what the heaviest pine cone in the world is.
Okay, tell us what the heaviest pine cone is.
Wikipedia says it is a coulter pine.
A coulter
A
pine.
mature female, evidently there are female and male pine cones.
Yes, the females have the seeds, correct?
Yeah, it does say that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll find out some more.
Okay, and now that we are getting toward the top, pick it up. Now I'm going to take, this is a
Needles.
loop, needles.
Pines have acicular shaped leaves, commonly called needles.
Yeah, are those the actual pine though? On the that's the actual pine needles.
Leaves?
Like, yeah, not the pine cone.
That doesn't sound right now.
No.
I'm having trouble.
Okay,
with
so
this.
I'm using a little bit of polybonder here on the end of this loop. Well, if someone knows, put it in the comments below.
Please, and be nice about it, people.
And I'm just pushing this right into the clay.
Because we're really wanting to find out.
Okay, so here is our first one. Now let's go ahead and let's repeat the whole process. We'll set that one aside because we have one more here. If your clay looks like this, don't worry. You know, some people think, oh, I can't reuse that. It's got holes in it. Just roll it up. You're going to kind of compress it here. Just kind of make a new little block out of it. You might get a few little air bubbles in it, but for what we're doing, that's okay. We can always pop them or hide them if we need to. And I'm just simply making this into a new little sheet. I'm going to go run this through the pasta machine on our second largest setting. Voila, brand new. And look at that nice variegation that we have now by doing that. And with the brown, it'll make beautiful, beautiful leaves. Trust me, I know. And we're going to need more brown too, so I'm going to do the same thing. This one you don't have to be as careful with because it's not a blend that you have to keep one side apart from the other. This is the way I do it. You can do it however you want. If you just tend to grab it and roll it in a ball, good for you. Have a good time. You do that. You do you. That's fine. Okay, and here we go. Rolled on the second largest setting of our pasta machine again. Now this guy, compared to the one that we did, look, he's going to end up being much smaller in size because if you remember, I flattened the back of the last one and elongated this a lot. Okay, but we're not going to do that for this one. We're going to do the same thing. Use the 1/4 inch cutter. I'm going to cut, oops. And just like last time, look at that, guys, it got stuck. So we'll just spray it with a little water.
Scales.
Scales?
That's it.
Scales. Okay, so cut out a whole bunch of more pine cone scales. Now I feel like we're talking about lizards. Cut out a whole bunch more. And if you kind of miss, like you notice some of my lines are intersecting here, that's okay. It's no big deal. This pine cone is going to be smaller and will probably not use near as many petals as its larger brother that we did. Okay, I'm going to take this off. And right now, because it's kind of falling apart on me, I'm going to go ahead and kind of roll this back into a blend with the gold on the right side and the brown on the other side. And this is all you have to do every single time. That's why there is no waste in clay. You don't have to scrap that at all. Just roll it back up. And now we just have a little baby blend. And no, it is not going to be perfect. And when you're doing something like this, that's kind of the point. Okay, so now we have all these little pieces. Let's make some bigger pieces for this guy too, to finish him off. Let's just do 4 of them for now. Okay, all right. So Let's start again. Okay, same process. Pinch the back, pinch the front. You can do it all at once. You can do it separately. And then your first is always the most important. You want it down from the edge where it's going to end because you actually want to cover this and press firmly. Let's put one of these fancy, look at that. Look how pretty that is. Let's put one of these with brown and gold. This is the benefit of taking a previous blend and just kind of lumping it and re-rolling, is that you get this beautiful variation in color. Okay, again, the flat side is going to go toward the flat side of your piece. Because remember, we want it to look like we took a pine cone and went and cut it in half. Sound effects help, trust me. Okay, again, squeeze. You don't think sound effects help?
I was just saying, I should be over here doing it. We should do a video like that time. I was like playing sound effects.
Okay, remember that we are putting the points in the gaps of the previous row. And you don't have to be super precise with this. Remember, nature is not perfect. The more perfect, the better. In my opinion, you will find people that disagree with me and disagree with that thought. The other reason that we are squeezing it is because we want to take out that kind of cookie cutter shape. And this helps. The other thing you could do is make sure your edges are very flat, because even if the middle is thick, having thin edges will give the illusion of being thin. Too bad that isn't true on people, right? Right? We'd all be nice and skinny if we were skinny on the edges and not round in the middle. Okay, so again, I'm making these kind of fat, and the reason I am is because I want it to not only be wearable, but be something that I know that if I give this to someone or if I sell it to someone, that it is absolutely not going to break on them. That's one of the worst things, is when somebody buys something and then it breaks, and you always feel bad because you wonder what you did wrong, and sometimes that kind of stuff happens, but if you can plan for it not to happen, that will be better. Now, we have to do these sides, and I'm unsure if we are going to need to cut it in half or not. So let's take a look here. We'll put it on. I think it'll be okay. Might look a little too big if you look at it from the side, but I think it'll be okay. Just remember to kind of place your points, your gaps, downward. And make sure you give them a nice good press. I am not being gentle. I am really pressing these on here because you don't want to bake it and then have your scales falling off. Look at that. It only took us almost the whole video to find out what that word is. They look like scales. I should have just called them that from the beginning. Good morning, friends. We're going to make pine cones with scales. Oh, did I just snort? Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh, thank you, Javi. I appreciate that. Accepting me just the way I am. Funny bones and all. And we're still just squeezing and placing here. These are a lot of fun. These could not be any easier. Even if you have never worked with clay before, you can do this. This isn't. Yeah, you can do this. This is not hard. I try to do projects that nearly everybody can do very simply. We're going to cut this one in half for the sides. That nearly everyone can do very simply, because it's no fun to tackle a project and be frustrated and not know what you're doing and feel like a failure. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to do something you can succeed at, and I agree, you should. Okay, so now we're going to use the bigger petals, and it looks like scales. I'm sorry, they're not petals, they're scales. I'm just going to go ahead and put these near the top. Now I know it looks like a pretty drastic change right now, but once we finish it, it won't look so drastic to your eye. And if we need more, we'll just cut a few more. No big deal. I like to kind of give these a little bend upward, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that here. Finish that off a little bit here in a moment. Another half here. Looks okay. Need a few more to finish it off. You want your petals to go all the way. Scales. They are scales. I'm sorry, everybody. They're so scales. You want your scales to go all the way to the top of your petal, of the top, top of your pine cone. Brenda, your viewers are never going to want me back. Because say, who is this crazy person that you invited into your studio?
I want you back.
Oh, thanks, Brenda.
I love having guest teachers.
Okay, so if we pick this up and we look at it, it's pretty much covered to the back. Okay, we can add one more petal here if we would like to kind of give it that finishing touch here. You know what? I don't like that. Let's try half and see if we like that any better. And we might not. And if you don't like it, yeah, don't like it. Let's be done with that for there. Again, I'm going to use the Lisa Pavelka Poly Bonder. And just a little bit. You do not need a lot of this stuff. It will work. Just doot, 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 doot. That's it.
I keep forgetting
You're going to
do this.
press it right in. Just give it a good old press. You can bend the end to be sure that it'll hold. But I have found with the Poly Bonder, it truly is not necessary when you have the twisted portion. Now, if you're using a straight eye pin, you will need to bend the end of it. Okay, so now we have 2 finished pine cones. Let's do some leaves and then we'll finish our pine cones. We're going to let our pine cones rest. Here's this nice green marbly thing. And where'd my cutters go? Here they are. Now we're going to make some leaves. If you look at, we'll use these snowy leaves as an example. If you look at the leaf, you can tell that I did the same thing, kind of marbleized clay. You can also tell there's mica on it. And the other thing what I did was I gave it a curl. The reason is because I don't like flat leaves. I think they look too cookie cutter, and that's what we're kind of trying to avoid here. So what we're going to do is we are going to use these cookie cutters and make some leaves and then alter them so that they have a little bit more personality than just a cookie cutter look. These ones are from Lisa Pavelka, but any variety of plunger cutter will do. I'm going to place it right on my clay. I do want you to notice I'm not using any release with these because I want that impression to be really, really firm. So I'm going to go ahead and press it down, and you'll feel it go through the clay. Now, when you use a plunger cutter, the best thing to do is to use the palm of your hand and literally rock your hand like this. This is what I have found is the easiest and the least painful. And the reason is because you want that plunger cutter to make sure that when it is embedded in the clay that it gets all of the veins. If you just press down from the top, it might do the center real well, but not the edges. So kind of rock your hand around. Then I pull the whole thing out. And already, so you see it has already started to lift. Push the center up and pull your leaf off. And there you go. It's an almost perfect rose leaf. And we are going to alter that. So let's make a couple big ones here. Do the same thing and really give it a good push. I am using a lot of weight. You guys can't see me on this side, but I'm pushing all my weight into this to make sure that I get a nice, good impression. In fact, it might even be wobbling the table, I think. Ooh. And then again, push up. You'll kind of hear it pop. And then I don't want to ruin that point, so I always pull from the back. Look at that. Perfect leaf every single time. Let's make a few different sizes, the medium size cutter. Do the same thing. Nice part about using a marbled blend like this, sometimes my hand gets sore, guys, so I have to do it this way, is that you can just ball it up and redo it. So when I've cut all my pieces out, if I say, hey, I want a few more leaves, just roll it up in a ball, put it through your pasta machine again on the second to the largest setting. And then pull from the back because there's no point. There you go, every time. You can use a release with these if you want, but like I said, I don't like to do that because I don't think the impressions that it gives are good enough. So let's make 5 leaves here, just because my hand needs a break. Okay, this will be our last leaf, and this is a little baby leaf. Push it up again, pull from the back. There we go. Okay, now let's take this and let's set it aside. If we decide to do more later, we can. All right, so now you have these nice leaves. In fact, you'll see that there's some leaf stuff here left on the table, so I'm just going to use this sheet, kind of wipe it up. There we go. Now all the green is back on the sheet. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to fix our leaf so it doesn't look so cookie cutter-ish. I'm just going to gently press it down into my work surface. This is a standard knitting needle, not a real thin one. I'm not a knitter, so I don't know what size this is, but I use it a lot. And I'm going to push it into every side of the rose leaf. That's going to get rid of that sharp edge and help to redefine leaf, and I'm just going the whole way around it. I'm also going to take the knitting needle right down the middle to help give it a little more differentiation. I'm going to pick it up. Now, without touching the top edge, I'm going to touch the bottom and give it a gentle squeeze. And what that is going to do, it's going to take all those pieces that were at the bottom and it's going to press it in. Okay, so already, if you look at the two, this one looks a little less cookie cutter-ish than this one because I've kind of helped to redefine those edges. And you can do this as much as you want. You want it to look a little bit natural, okay? After this, we are going to add some powders and things, and sometimes, depending on my mood, yeah, I'll do it in my hand because why not? God gave me hands, so let's use them. And let's use them with knitting needles and polymer clay. Ooh, fun. That should be a project in and of itself. What can you do with a knitting needle and polymer clay? Be like a challenge.
I know what to do.
Oh.
Make my little twisty beads that actually look good.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's
You
a
know
good
how you
project.
make a little snake and wrap it in?
Yeah, that's a good project. A knitting needle is one of my favorite sculpting tools as well. You can do so much with a knitting needle. It's probably one of the biggest reasons I love polymer clay because I get to raid every stinking department in the craft store. It's awesome.
I know. It's true.
We use stuff from every department.
It's true.
Hey, let's grab some of this and throw it on and see what happens. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Huh? See? You just never know. Stamping department, scrapbooking department, paints, oil paints, pastels. Oh, you name it. Oh, and let's not forget the glitter department. You know, that is one thing they should have at craft stores is a glitter department.
Just for glitter.
Just for glitter. Because, you know, the world needs more glitter.
Somebody could start a website, the glitter store.
You know, there probably is one now that we're talking about it.
Now I have to Google that.
Yeah. There probably is one. But seriously, how fun would that be to have just a glitter department? Because, I don't know, at least the craft store that I shop in down by my house, there isn't a glitter department. There's glitter in scrapbooking. There's glitter all over the place. But there isn't like one place for glitter. So you end up going to like all these different departments. Now this leaf, if you notice there's some extra clay on the edges, I'm just going to rub my knitting needle on top and kind of blend it in a little. And again, that's part of the fun of polymers, that you can tweak it, make it your own. If it doesn't look quite like a rose leaf, hey, the intentions were there. Okay, next thing we're going to do is with a very, very thick, very, very bristly, but yet soft synthetic brush, we're going to add some powder to these leaves because we want to change them. We don't want it to look just like green clay because these, when we are finished, are going to look very earthy, and this looks too much like Play-Doh. So I am going to take my color set of chalks. The chalks that I will be using are this light brown, which is gorgeous, this dark brown, this blue-green, and blue. And on a few of them we may even sprinkle a little bit of purple because we want these to look earthy and a little bit rugged, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my darkest color, which is this brown. I'm just going to put it right there in my, and you'll see it got a nice helping of brown. And I'm going to start right down the center of every leaf. Now, if this goes all over the place, that is great. The more mess we make, the better. I'm going to get some more brown. And I'm just kind of really being loosey-goosey and just kind of rubbing it in here, okay? But this is why you want a soft bristle brush. If you have a non-soft bristle brush, you're going to rub all those indents right out of it, okay? So now I'm going to take this light brown. I'm going to use some of this light brown here, wherever I want, because, you know, this is fun. It's a little addicting too to figure out what you can actually do with chalks. It's kind of fun. Let's use a little red. I didn't even tell you we were using red. Yeah, let's use some red. Ooh, ooh, look at that. Ooh, yes, I like that. And if you're wondering if I talk to myself like this in the studio, yeah, I do. It is not quiet in my studio. Talk to myself.
Happy.
Yeah. This is a little bit of that blue-green that we're just going to add in here. In some random places. Look how our leaves are kind of getting dirty. It's kind of cool. Okay, now to finish up, I'm going to add a little bit of this gold that I really do like. And I'm going to add it toward the tip to make it look a little lighter. I'm going to take whatever is left on my brush. I don't even care what it is. I'm going to go around the edges of my leaf, and it will naturally hit a few of those. We're not going to get rid of the green completely. You can do that afterward with some Lumiere paints or some Inca Gold or just flat acrylic paint if you want. Okay, so now that we have this, remember how I told you needed that cosmetic sponge? Mine is dried a little, so I'm going to spray it with water off camera. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove most of the chalk from the surface, and I'm going to do that just simply by wiping the top. And all it's doing is it's going to leave some of the chalk there. It's going to remove others of it. So if you look at the leaf, it doesn't look like, gee, she just threw a whole bunch of chalk on that. So it looks a little bit better. And you can remove as much or as little as you want. You will also need a kind of a needle tool. This is actually a quilting needle. They don't have points on them, so they're not quite so sharp. And I'm going to, right where these last two veins meet, I'm going to pierce it from one side, push it all the way through, turn it over in my hand, and push it all the way through. Now here's a good way to tell how much you've changed your leaf. It's to look at the front of one and the back of another, and you'll see how drastically different they are. Part of that is because the clay was marbled, but the other part is because you've actually treated that leaf. Okay? So go ahead and we'll do this for all of our leaves. And you just really want your holes large enough that you can pass a jump ring through them. Don't put them down too far though on your leaf, or you are not going to be able to get a jump ring through them, or you'll have to use a super big jump ring that will look ridiculous, and we don't want that. So just keep piercing. And I do this in my hand. You can do it on a work surface, that's fine. I don't know, this is just the way I do it. But you can do it however suits you. Like I said before, you do you. Okay, so now that we have the holes in them, and now that we have some shading on it, now we're going to make it sparkle a little. I am going to use the Perfect bronze from Perfect Pearls. I like Perfect Pearls because they have a built-in resin, so you don't have to seal them when you are done. However, I still recommend sealing it if it's going to be worn. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to put it just a few highlight places, maybe on the sides of some, maybe on the tops of others. Notice how I'm not using this directly from the jar. I have put some in the lid, and I'm pulling it directly off the lid. Let's put this one down the center. Now, I don't like a lot of mica powder. If you've ever taken a class with me, you know I have rules about mica powder. I don't like things to look like I took mica powder and threw it on there. I think mica powder should be used as an accent and not to cover your entire clay piece. So, the way I solve that is I use one of my fingers, usually my ring finger because it has the gentlest touch, and I rub down the entire leaf from the top to the bottom. Mica is tiny little particles, and when you put it on, all the particles stick up every which way, the same as glitter. So think of more finely milled glitter. By rubbing with your finger, what you're actually doing is you're pushing all those particles down, so it's going to give superior reflection, but it's not going to look like you just dumped mica on it. So here's a prime example of that. If you turn it in the right light, and Javi, can you see that at all? Okay, so if you turn it in the right light, you can see the mica. If you don't have it in the right light, it's not going to jump out at you from across the room like, gee, she threw mica on that, okay? Once you have all of that done to your satisfaction, you can use cappuccino, you can use heirloom gold. On these leaves, if you notice, I added some blue. Blue on green leaves looks beautiful, and these are interference micas that I used on these, so you're not necessarily going to see it until you look at them real close. These ones I used some purple on the back, and you can kind of see that there. I think, Javi, can you see that? Okay. And this one has some green in it. So you can vary what micas you use per leaf because they're all going to be different anyway. To bend my leaves to give them movement, I simply pinch it very, very lightly without pinching it, and I give it a quick little turn. Okay, that's going to hold its shape pretty well, but when I bake it, I'm just going to bake it on a piece of Kleenex. Kleenex will go in your oven just fine. And I like to bend them different ways, but I just bend them in opposite directions from each other. So if I'm bending the top to the left, the front goes to the right. Bending the top to the right, the front goes to the left. And by there, now look how much different, and actually, in my opinion, prettier those leaves are, and less like cookie cutters when you just give them a simple little bend. So when you bake these in your oven, you'll still bake them if you're using Primo clay at 275 for 45 minutes on a tissue to help give them support, and they won't flatten out, and they'll be absolutely beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead now that we've done our leaves. Oh, and you can add, wait, before I forget, if you would like, you can take these Rosemontees and you can embed them right down that center. In fact, let's do that for a couple of them. The way I'm going to do that, because it is the easiest for me, because I have big fat fingers, sausage hands, I am going to take, I'm going to do it on our two larger ones. I'm going to take my poly bonder. I'm going to simply set a little drop, just tiny, tiny little bit right into that leaf. Set my Rosemontee on there and give it a push, all with my tweezers, because again, I have big fat sausage fingers. Same thing on this one. Tiny little drop. Remember that with this glue, less is more. That may actually be too much glue. And if you're sensitive to smells, please know that this glue does smell. It is a high temperature type of a super glue. And you can retwist if you have just totally taken your twist out of your leaf. Okay, now you're going to have two fancy leaves to go with all of your little more plain Jane leaves. And if you want, you can embed the Rosemontees into those as well. Okay, so let's set those aside and let's finish up our pine cones. Now our pine cones, we're going to kind of give the same treatment to. I am going to use the red and the dark brown, and I don't know, we'll see, maybe something else. I completely lied to you last time. Not on purpose, of course. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take these powders and put them up underneath the scales. This will help the petals to bend outward and will also give variation so that when you look at them, it looks like it's actually darker underneath the petals, if that makes sense. Okay, so the way I do it is I actually hold it in my hand upside down. That's easiest for me. I'm going to take this dark brown and really get my brush in there really well. Get a lot of chalk powder. You can also use chalk pastels, like I said. I'm going to start at the top because I want it to be the darkest. I'm just going to kind of fluff this right up in there. And it'll kind of spread, and make sure you don't breathe it in. That would not be good. Okay, and I'm just adding it up under there. Kind of giving it a little push. It's kind of separating those scales a little bit too. When you're done, make sure your mica powder in front of you is closed and give it a blow. Okay, see how that drastically changed? Let's look at the two. See the difference? One looks candy colored and this one looks a little more earthy and a little more rustic. Now you get to play with color. I'm going to add a little bit of red on the back only. Okay, and again, we're not out to make this perfect and to make this flawless, but we want to change the way that this looks a little. That's the beauty of polymer, is that whatever you put on it is going to change the way it looks. And give it a blow once again. Okay, now if you think you have darkened it too much, this is where the fun comes in. Let's put that back down. Now we're going to use some heirloom gold mica powder. I am using the lid only. Please notice I did not shake. I did not dump any into the lid. I'm going to use my pinky finger and press it. Just press into the lid. Look at that beautiful color, okay? And I am just going to touch the very, very tips of this pine cone and disperse some of this color. I'm not being careful. I'm just lightly kind of tapping the edges, the sides, the tips of these leaves. Sometimes I'll do it upside down. and voila. See the effect? Can you see that, Javi, or not? Okay. So now you have a more rustic, yet the mica gives it a little bit fancier quality. If you don't want it sparkly, the mica looks beautiful when you pair it with the Rosemontees and with crystals. It looks really nice. But if you don't want it fancy, just don't put the mica powder on the end. So you have one more pine cone. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. I was looking right at it. Let's do the last one again. Let's do a little bit lighter of a brown. That way you can kind of see the difference. So let's do this. And notice I haven't cleaned off this brush at all because this is more fun this way. Kind of hold it upside down, kind of let that color kind of fall into the cracks. I am pressing, I don't know if you can tell that from the video or not, but I am pressing this in there. I'm not being very gentle at all. So if you did not, this is a good way to tell, if you didn't push down all of those scales, they're gonna come flying off. So this is a good reason that you need to push down all those scales. Okay, so that's added a nice covering. I'm gonna add the red because I like it. Up toward the top. Yeah, maybe a little down here too, why not? And blow. Okay. And that already looks pretty nice. I'm gonna add a little bit of this blue just because I want to see what happens. Not a whole lot. Great. Okay, well, hey, we tried. Never know. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing, same lid. Yes, I used a lot. I'm just going to use what's on the outside edges here. Just patting my finger down into it. Your finger will pick it up. Okay, look at that. Woo! It's a gorgeous color. And just simply drag it along the edges. Now, I am not going to go back over this with my finger like I showed you on the leaves because I want this to kind of be blingy and to kind of stick out. Javi, can you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you have all this nice, gorgeous mica color on the edges without looking too fussy. If you do want to blend it in, what I would suggest, take the same brush that you just used. Let's clean it off. And I'm just using a wet wipe. If it's not wet enough, just spray a little bit of water into it. Do it again. There's no need to use multiple wet wipes. One will work for most of the day unless you're very, very messy, and then in which case, have at it. Now it's wet a little. I'm just going to rub it on the back of my hand to kind of dry it off. Or you can rub it on your sleeve, you know, whatever. Now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to kind of drag it over the top. That'll kind of set all those powders and anything that isn't on there kind of be brushed off. Okay, so now you can see the difference. This one has nice bright mica. This one has very muted mica, and it was simply because, again, I took the brush over it and pushed those particles down. Okay, that's it. So you have lots of options when it comes to how you want to treat your pine cones. So now that you have all of your pieces done, okay, so to bake your polymer clay, check your package. This is Primo. It'll tell you how many degrees. This says 275 degrees for 30 minutes. Nothing in my studio bakes for less than an hour, so bake everything for an hour in your polymer clay oven at 275 degrees if you're using Primo. If not, check the package. Just put your little leaves on some. This is just an old wet wipe that I just tore up to help keep its shape, and that's it. When it's done, have fun and string away.
Hey, so it's all over. We got through it. She did it. She's the best teacher. I'm telling you what, for polymer clay. Come around this place. Well, and Christy too. You, me, and Christy Friesen. We make a good team. I make a really good observer. You guys make a team.
Hey, look, anybody can do this project. It's super easy.
Yeah, I believe I could do this.
Yeah, you could.
Sometime we'll prove it.
Yeah, make ornaments.
Yes. Jewelry.
Jewelry.
All right, see you next time, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.